Kathakali is an Indian dance drama form of theatre based in Kerala, which is written by playwright composers in highly Sanskriticized Malayalam. Kathakali itself reflects the old age martial arts seen in Kerala and the surrounding regions. Moreover, the traditional belief that kings were in charge of conducting warfare can be seen mirrored in Kathakali. This is done whenever an actor enacts a sacrificial act of bloodletting by killing a demon or a demon king. Kathakali itself can be originated from the ancient Sanskrit Hindu text, the Natya Shastra. This is written by Bharata Muni and depicts dance into two different forms, the Nritya and the Nrita. Nritya focuses on the brilliance of expression and emotion within dance, whilst Nrita focuses on hand gestures and feet gestures mainly. The actual word Kathakali can be broken into two, Katha and Kali. Katha meaning storytelling, whilst Kali focuses on the actual idea of performance. Kathakali enacts one or more episodes from the religious Hindu epics, and focuses on the footwork and the hand gestures to communicate to their audience. It can be distinguished from any other type of art form through the intricate makeup and costume scene. Also, they are constantly accompanied by musicians who are often percussionists. Back in 1600 AD, there was a very famous form of drama called Krishnatam. Krishnatam was so popular that the Raja of Kottarakora, Thampuran, wanted to hire a group of performers for a certain Hindu festival. His request was met with rejection and humiliation, so in response to this, Thampuran created his own form of temple-based theatre called Ramanattam. People think that Ramanattam is the original basis for Kathakali, and by the end of the 18th century, most of the forms that characterise Kathakali had been made through Ramanattam. Kathakali performances are often based off of religious sagas, legends, Hindu epics, and the spiritual beliefs of the time. This is because everybody knew these stories that they had been raised essentially reading. Their family values would have come from these sagas and legends, and everyone would understand the tales essentially. So the point of Kathakali isn't that there's a plot twist or that we don't know which character will die or be killed. The point is that we know exactly what's going to happen, and yet we somehow are still enticed by it every single time. Kathakali is performed outside, usually in a tent, as you can see behind me, and there are a few props used within the actual staging itself. You have three different sets of performers: the dance actors, which can be seen there, the percussionist, seen behind them, and a vocalist. The vocalist would sing the lyrics, whilst the dancers would perform the lyrics being sung, much like in old school musical theatre where there would be three different types of actors for each dance, drama, and music component. Alongside this, there are percussionists who essentially accompany music and really create the atmosphere of the scene. Within the percussionist orchestra, there are three different types of drums: the center, the madalam, and the edaka. These three drums have very distinct noises which create meaning for the actual piece itself. As you can see, the three different types are outlined here. You can actually hear them here, and you can see how important music is to the atmosphere of Kathakali. Here you could enact perhaps that the scene is of great tension, perhaps there is a fight going on or a chase. Without music, Kathakali loses its special component. Traditionally, only men performed in Kathakali. However, nowadays, not only do women perform in Kathakali, but the actual stories that they take their plays from have changed. Whilst in the past it was solely Hindu epics, now it has turned into Christianity, so they can take stories from the Bible, and they've also taken stories from Western plays and stories written by people like Shakespeare, for example. Kathakali, however, nowadays is not nearly as popular as it used to be, especially within the youth, as they have so many different types of entertainment to grasp, essentially. And if they weren't raised with an appreciation for Kathakali, then they are much less likely to go and actively see it. The reason why Kathakali was so popular, though, is because it was accessible to all people. Not only did they know the stories that they were going to see and felt familiar with the actual culture itself, but they would be performed in Hindu temples and would relay the stories of the Ramayana and Mahabharata. They would feel very comfy, essentially in their familiar setting, watching this piece. One very important aspect of Kathakali is the makeup. As you've seen in the photos before, you can see that they have very intricate faces and they're all quite unique. There are a few different types of makeup seen in Kathakali, and these are the basis. You have Paka, Minuku, Tepu, Kari, Tati, Payupu, and Kati. Paka is a green face. Now, if a green face is added with red lips, this equals a noble character such as Krishna or Vishnu. Minuku is almost a female equivalent of this. Minuku means a yellow or orange brightly lit face like the sun and represents a noble female character such as Sita or Panchali. Tati refers to a black face, and this would mean perhaps a forest inhabitor. However, if a black face is added with red patches, this symbolises essentially danger and that a character should not be trusted. They are perhaps a demoness, for example. Tati refers to beards, and the beards can either be white or red, white being good and red being evil. Kathakali sees characters as very binary. You only have good and evil characters, and there's not usually an in-between. This is because they're taken from such classical texts, and they're almost simplified stories. There are two ways in which Kathakali performers communicate to their audiences. One is through Navara sounds, which refers to facial gestures. Here, you can see that there are 9 different types of Navara sounds, and performers would have to perfect these essentially throughout their entire career of life. As you can see, each one has very specific eyebrows, eyes, chin gestures, the movement of the actual head itself. So you can see why it takes so long to train as a Kathakali performer, because these movements have very kind of distinguishable features in between them. The other form in which Kathakali performers communicate, and my focus today, is Mudras. Mudras refers to actual hand gestures of Kathakali, and it's almost like sign language. There are 24 basic Mudras, and these can altogether be 470 different actual symbols. Mudras can be shown either as an Asamayutha Mudra, meaning one hand, or as a Samayutha Mudra, meaning two. For example, Pathaka, this symbol, as an Asamayutha Mudra, can mean day, tongue, body, noise, or that thing. However, as a Samayutha Mudra, this can mean sun, earth, hell, and 24 other things. Another one, Mushti, my personal favourite, as an Asamayutha Mudra, can mean in vain, god of death, mud, and medication. As a Samayutha Mudra, this can mean driver of a chariot, beauty, or purity. You can see how these mudras would be translated to the audience. You wouldn't simply stand there and hold them static, because that wouldn't really be able to convey the message. When I first began my exploration of these mudras, I simply started to try and essentially replicate them. I soon found that it was quite difficult, as you have to hold great tension in your hands themselves to make these unnatural gestures. I realised further how much physical strength is required and why there is so much training to actually become a Kathakali performer. From here, I wanted to essentially see if I could translate a piece of Kathakali text into mudras. The text which I chose was the Kali Saugandikam, which refers to the flower of good fortune. In this text, Bhima, a noble character, expresses to his wife that he is devoted to her by him saying he'll search for the Saugandikam flower, the flower of good fortune. Now here you can see the actual lyrics that will be sung. However, as a performer, the only mudras that he does are in reference to "O beautiful dear-eyed one, as you desire." They wouldn't sing the entire lyrics. Overall in the performance, this takes about 3 minutes to say, with the vocalist constantly singing in the background. When I first watched this, I wanted to essentially decipher what mudras were being used. So the first one that I found was Mriga Sirsham, as an Asamayutha mudra, and this is to mean deer. And this is the symbol for deer. As you can see, this is very similar to how we perhaps might communicate an animal. Within my culture, I find that when I was doing shadow puppets when I was younger, this would be be what I would use to kind of refer to an animal or to a wolf perhaps. So I can see where these mudras are actually being derived from. The next mudra is Sikaram, which refers to eye. Now Sikaram as a Samayutha mudra actually means eye. However, within the performance they use a Samayutha mudra, so double-handed gesture, to mean eye. However, this still refers to eye. The next symbol is Kathari Mukam, and this is also used as an Asamayutha mudra, and this is to mean you. This is Kari Mukam. Now, this is very similar to how we ourselves would actually refer to another person, so again we can see how mudras have developed in very similar ways to how we actually speak ourselves. The last one, meaning desire, is Mudra Bikam, which is also as an Asamayutha mudra, and it is this symbol. From here, I simply try to essentially communicate these different mudras going from one style to another. So you would begin with the deer, go into the eyes, go into you, and then further into desire. Now, I didn't think that this properly translated to my audience. I thought that this wasn't kind of enough to drive home the message that I will do as you desire for my wife. So as I watched it again, I realised how important the music was in actually creating the atmosphere. So once again, I tried to add to the music and see whether that would help the creation of this scene. Now, as I began to listen to the music, I realised how important it was in enacting it. Whilst people might be able to actually understand the lyrics, not only that, but you can hear a kind of sense of want and longing in the air. It's kind of very romantic in a sense, so you can see where the devotion would come from. So once again, I tried to perform this and see if that would help. Beginning with the deer, going into the eyes, into you, and then into desire. Whilst I thought this was better than my first attempt, I still don't think that it was good enough to actually translate to my audience. I don't think this would understand I am doing something for my wife specifically. I don't think it showed that I'm communicating this towards my wife, moreover. So, after watching it again, I realised that the movement in between the mudras is as important as the mudra themselves. So, I finally came up with this final piece. As you can see, I developed the piece so that the movement in between the mudras was essentially as vibrant as the actual mudras themselves. I think that this really helped to drive home the point that Bhima is trying to say. Also, I found it interesting how the actual first mudra for deer is moving. It's almost like the deer is coming to life, and this will help communicate to my audience that this is specifically meaning towards deer. He also did this with eyes, and that seems to focus in on the eyes. During all this, he would have been doing different types of navarasams. And whilst I'm not focusing on that, I do think it's important to note how important these navarasams are, because that will really tell us what he's essentially feeling. Through my exploration of Kathakali, I've found it very interesting how music and physicality can meld together to form this cross-cultural and cross-linguistic form of theatre. You don't have to understand the lyrics or the Sanskritized Malayalam to understand Kathakali. You don't even necessarily have to understand the mudras, but it seems to use the normal human expression in a way that we can actually understand what they're doing exactly. Moreover, I found that my knowledge of how theatre practices develop through time has been enhanced. I find it very interesting that Kathakali originates from this one point, and that not only Kathakali originates from this one point, but other forms of theatre. From the Natya Shastra, you have Krishnatam and Ramanatam, which then turns into Kathakali, and who knows where Kathakali will go from here. I can also see cross-cultural links within Kathakali, especially in the way that they use makeup. Within other forms of theatre, such as pantomime or commedia dell'arte, they use facial makeup or masks, for example, to characterise very specific archetypal characters. One part that I found very interesting in how I will actually go on to develop theatre is how storytelling can be done with the use of hands. You know, there are hand gestures, very worldwide known hand gestures can be used to really drive home the point of a story, and I think I can use this in my own performances whenever I'm trying to tell a story. My overall comparison of Kathakali is to the German expressionistic art form of mime. This is because I think both use the same kind of procedures to convey their messages. Kathakali uses a combination of navarasams and mudras alongside music to tell an audience what their message is, to communicate the story. Mime does this very similarly. In mime, everything is exaggerated. You do not do anything calmly. If you pick up a cup, you pick up a cup. It is not done simply, much like how he used his entire hand to refer to the eyes. This is very similar in mime. Moreover, mime also uses makeup to show their characters. And in the one that I saw, called Lebensraum, which I saw at the Peacock Theatre, which follows the German expressionistic mime art form, there are actually musicians directly in the background the entire time accompanying them. This helped me understand what was funny, what was fast-paced, and what the characters were feeling in those moments. Thank you.